Great to have you here another weekend on AM 920, The Answer, Biz 1190, and we're talking real estate. I'm Bryan Crabtree, therealestateexperts.com. That's our website. That's also your main one-stop resource for everything you need to know about Atlanta area real estate. Now, everybody likes to go to Zillow because Zillow is like the Google of real estate, and I get that, and I'm not begrudging that. I use Zillow quite a lot to help my sellers win in real estate. But here's the thing. When you go on those sites, you have a website that's much like, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. Most of what they do is automated, brainless. They don't empower people at Zillow that work there to make decisions and to make the site regional specific or information specific. So always be aware when you're on these national home sites that they're really just brainless automated bots doing things, much like the rest of our country's become. And the information and the data on those sites is not generally reliable. Let me give you some examples of the stuff we deal with in this business that you need to be aware of if you're looking at real estate data online, so that you don't take what you read as being the gospel. A site like Zillow takes information from the tax records, which those feeds are notoriously inaccurate. Square footage can be wrong. The purchase prices, sales prices can be wrong. They can have the wrong names about information. The Zestimates can be grossly off. I've got a house right now listed that when we started the process, the Zestimate was off by nearly $400,000 because the property consists of 5 parcels. And so the property we have listed as we have it listed says it's worth $850,000. And Zillow Zestimate says $475,000. We contact Zillow about this and say, this is wrong. Well, we can't change it. Well, why don't you want to make it accurate? Well, we don't work that way. So they're not interested they're not in the business of accuracy. That's secondary. Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, Movoto, these big websites, they're not interested in delivering local market, geographic specific relevant data. They're just interested in a generalization, because if they start getting into that, their fear is that the risk there is that local people start to manipulate things to their favor and they lose control of what they deem as the integrity of their system. By that nature, that's what's happening online in every industry in America, is that the big players, which have bought up all of their competition, Zillow gets someone that like Trulia starts to become competitive and gain market share on Zillow by doing a better job, and they just buy them and ruin them like they have everything else they bought. So you can't depend on the data you see online with regard to real estate to be accurate and dependable. And this is not a sales pitch, and I know this is going to sound like one as I convert. That's why you have to find someone that can help you unpack the data that's out there, use more trade-specific industry resources, and come to a conclusion as to what all this means as it relates to what you're selling or buying or trying to do. This is a real existential threat to the American economy and the American way of life. The fact that we take these liberties as people by going online and Googling it. We see a property with a sign in the yard, and we Google the address. And literally half of the information that we consume from that point forward, if we're lucky, is wrong. I've been known to say it's 80% wrong. 80% of what a given population of people think is inherently wrong. It may not be totally wrong, but it's generally wrong. It could be about a social issue, about global warming, about the president of the United States, the one we have now, the one we had then, about a political party or the other, about an idea or the other, especially in politics. It's just wrong. Everybody has an agenda. Every online website has an agenda. It's to sell you something. Or it's to use your data to sell someone else something. That's what Zillow and Trulia and all those things do. So inherently, and this may sound self-serving, but a website like mine at therealestateexperts.com, or if you want to see your home's value, which is generally accurate, but generally inaccurate. I'm not going to tell you that my site is the best sprocket and that somehow if you go to househuntingonline.com and enter the property address that you own, and you find the instant value, that's going to be accurate. I don't want you to go there thinking that. I want you to go there thinking it's going to give me a generally good idea of what the value of my home is today compared to some point in the past. And then once you do that, here's the neat thing. With the local people like me, and there are others, we're not going to sell your data to 15 other companies that start calling you over and over again. It's just us. What's our agenda? We want to meet people. We want to who are interested in the value of their home and plan at some point in the future to sell it. It's that simple. I don't have to hide that. But generally speaking, the American economy that we're in now, culturally as well, more so culturally even than the economy, people are, I'm afraid to give my data out on there because I know what's going to happen. They're going to start calling me, trying to sell me something. Well, that's what everybody's doing. And the difference in our site is you have to permit us to call you by putting in your data. And then you could just say, I'm not selling, don't bother me, and we won't bother you anymore. But if you go on Zillow and do that, they're going to have 15 people calling you. You go to some of these national, regional websites, they're going to have 20 people calling you. They're going to sell your data 10 times over because they're not making any money off of you. My goal is to make money off of you when you buy or sell. So if I piss you off before you get there, you're not going to do anything with me, and I've just put all that effort in vain. So with Zillow, they don't care because you don't attach using a site like Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com to being inundated with ridiculous phone calls. And you go, well, I'm going to put my fax number in there. Good luck getting me on that. And well, here's what you don't realize today about companies that collect your data. Once I go on a website and put in a fake phone number and an email address I don't ever use, but maybe it's a real email address, but I don't ever use it, or maybe it's fake. They've got my IP address. They've got my name. It's me. I mean, even if I put in a fake name, if I'm putting a fake name in order to gain data, one could say that I'm doing something illegal. It's not criminal, but I'm saying if I'm giving this website, this company, incomplete, inaccurate, wrong, purposefully wrong information in order to gain access to their website to get their data, whatever it is I'm looking for in terms of information, then I'm doing something wrong. Right? So people do this all the time, and then how'd you get my number? You gave me permission to call you. I don't have to call the wrong number you gave me. I'll just do a reverse lookup. I'm just giving you the secrets. I'm a transparent guy. That's why people have always hired me. There's nothing we're doing to trick you. We don't do the gimmicks and all that garbage. Like, we'll buy your home. Bypass the market. Hi, this is Realtor ABC. You want to sell your home this spring? Bypass the market. No showings. No obligations. Just bypass the market. We'll buy your home. You heard those ads? It's all BS. Will they buy your home? Sure they will. I will too. The difference is I have a hard time with that. And I'm not judging anybody. I'm not calling anybody out. You may know who I'm thinking about as I'm doing that, but I'm not naming any names here. I almost did. I'm just not going to do it. It doesn't matter. I actually like the guy. But the problem with that is I look at that guy. I can't do that. I can't lead someone into believing that I'm going to buy their home at fair market value only to give them 30 cents on the dollar as a discount, 70 cents on the dollar for their home. $300,000 home, I'm going to offer you 210, 225 range. I'm just not going to do it. I don't believe in doing business that way. And if that means I do less business than some of the people at the top, so be it. I don't need to be number one. I've been there. I know what it takes to do it, and I know you can do it honestly. But I think the issue in America now is everything out there online is injected there to mislead you. I was talking to somebody at a sale. I went to the Miami International Boat Show, which is the biggest boat show of all boats, sailboats and powerboats in North America, including Canada and Mexico. And I was talking to somebody who was talking about some of the components that they put on ocean cruising sailboats. And some of the pieces, if they just used an extra 25-cent piece of metal over the piece of carbon or plastic that they're using that expands and gets brittle and eventually breaks after 4 or 5 years, that those pieces would last for virtually decades. And one of the presenters was telling a story about a specific part that's no longer being made, but at the time they had a relationship with the manufacturer of that part, the person who invented it, and said, why don't you make this component metal, because this is the part that breaks a lot. Well, if I did that, I'd never sell a second one or a third one. It was toilet hinges. They use plastic toilet hinges. You know why people use plastic toilet hinges? Well, obviously, Crabtree, you don't know that. Save money. No. Because putting a metal toilet hinge on a toilet The part of the toilet, when you sit there and jiggle it around and force it out. Now, I'm sorry to give you the image this morning, but that part is not that expensive. What are we talking? A few cents extra? You charge a few cents extra and say, we're the metal hinge toilet people. And your price is virtually the same as the plastic hinge people. That's what your packaging says. So you're sitting there on the shelf with metal hinges that cost 28 cents per toilet seat more, and you're 28 cents more than the plastic ones next to it. You're going to sell more with the metal hinges. Why don't you put metal on the toilet seats? Because once you put metal on the toilet seats, nobody's going to have to replace the toilet seat again. And on marine toilets, for an ocean sailing sailboat, the toilet seat, when it goes bad, it costs almost literally as much as the damn toilet. So why do they do that? Because if they did what was really right and made the best product, gave you the best service, you never need to buy another toilet seat. But if they can make you pay $100 for a uniquely designed on purpose so that you can't get it anywhere else marine toilet seat, then they can keep making money off of your overpriced marine toilet. Now, I think everybody listening can understand that ridiculous analogy I just gave you and understand that when you go online, you are dealing with that kind of mentality. Let's call it what it is. These websites of national prominence, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor, etc., aim to do only one thing: mislead you, sell your data, and by that nature, screw you over. Beware. Look for honest local websites with a lot of data on it. And this wasn't a pitch for the realestateexperts.com. This was a general statement about every business. Coming up, the CMA, comparative market analysis by an agent versus an appraisal. Seller, beware. I'll explain next.
Here comes Bryan Crabtree for your radio talk.
Great to have you here. The realestateexperts.com real estate show on AM 920. The Answer, 9 o'clock on Saturday mornings, 10 o'clock on Biz 1190 every weekend. We appreciate you tuning in. And on our website, therealestateexperts.com, you can go to our blog page, and we put all the radio podcasts there, a little player, so you can download it, listen however you want, wherever you want. It's on, pick your poison, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or right there on the website at therealestateexperts.com. Now, for homeowners who are thinking about selling, the first segment, and I really was talking about home valuations online. You go online to househuntingonline.com, for instance. That's our website. It is specifically tooled for people who want to know the current value of their home in a general sense. It's not 100% accurate. It doesn't factor the pool. If you have another parcel attached to it that's not part of the tax ID associated with the address, maybe you have a second parcel, a double lot or something, it doesn't factor the condition, the upgrades, added square footage in the last couple of years. There's a lot of things we can't know automated and give you a value on in 30 seconds. We can give you a baseline. So if you're thinking about selling, we like to give you something more detailed where I ask some questions and then I give you back information. So a lot of people, they go online to get the value, they take it and run with it. And they do one of two things. They either believe it, which is why I did a whole segment about not believing what you read online on Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, etc., because it misleads you. You make bad decisions financially and about your future by taking that data and implanting it into your psyche. The purpose of us having househuntingonline.com to give you a free and instant online valuation is to give you something to measure your house on. So once you sign up, once a month, our site sends you an updated valuation. So if this month it's 150, and next month it's 152, and the next month it's 156, over the course of time as a homeowner who's not planning to sell, we're not going to take you off. You say, I'm not selling. We don't care. We're not actually manually doing this. We're paying for a service to be able to give you a valuable service to track your home specifically under one set of parameters so that you can follow the value infinitum. If you don't ever sell with us, it's fine. We don't care. We love you to do that. But if you go to Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com, you're going to be in a schizophrenia mode of what the actual value is of your home. This is a general idea. Is it going up, going down, going sideways? If you are thinking about selling or refinancing or any of that, whether you're going to list with us or not, it amazes me at people who are curious about the value of their home, But then we'll go, hey, are you selling or buying? Just wanted to know, do you have any upgrades, whatever. It's quick little, they don't even answer. I mean, I took the time to go and fill out the forms and get the value, but I don't want to I don't want to know the truth. So I get one of two answers. I either get something unrelated to value, or I get, I would never list with you because your value is so far down low, I would never do it. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but I'm like, does this person really not realize that in 30 seconds online, they got a CMA with all the sales in the area for the last 12 months and a value that I didn't do that? Why are you talking to me like I'm the one that came up with that value? I'm just offering you a tracking service. I think there's a detachment between people in the general consumer public, which may be some of my audience, and what really is happening in our industry. And I do my damnedest, my best job possible of trying to convey the nastiness of this industry to you so that you can hopefully, if there's anything self-serving about it, detach me from my pathetic industry. This industry sucks. But let's face it, you got a house to sell or you own real estate, you've got to figure out a way to deal with a crappy industry that sucks like housing and all the losers that populate this industry that are going to be in the way of your best results. Let's just call it what it is. We all collectively suck. And I am not proud of this industry for that reason. I don't like being part of an industry where most of the people in it suck. Uninformed, uneducated, lazy, and greedy. I see it every day. The only thing people in this industry care about is their commission. They don't care about their education. They don't pursue being good because they're too lazy. That's what I just said. So if that's how you feel about the housing industry, the worst thing you can do is treat it the way you feel, because you are going to be the one that gets harmed. Let me give you a different example. I hate Zillow. I don't hate much. I put Zillow in the category of Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Comcast. And if you've listened to me for a while, you know that I have no love lost for either of those three businesses, two banks and a cable company. Zillow is no better. In fact, they may be right up there with B of A, which is the worst institution that I could think of in America right now. So, having said that, if I behaved like many of the consumers I come in contact with, not all or most, but many, in regards to Zillow, I would harm every seller I represent. Because I can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I can't say Zillow sucks, it's evil, it's bad, very bad. Very bad, right? I can't say that. I can feel that way, I can recognize that part of the business, but I have to deal with Zillow. So I deal with Zillow by recognizing and respecting their place in the market, just like I do with Comcast, just like I do with the size of Bank of America and Wells Fargo. And where I have the opportunity, I have somebody trying to sell me something from a Zillow company right now, and they're upset at me because they thought they sold one of my agents something, and I kiboshed it. I'm not going to buy your crap, period, because I think you suck. However, when it comes to marketing my sellers' listings, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make sure they have the best and most exposure on Zillow every single day. There's a difference. I'm going to do what I need to do to win for the people who hire me to win by not letting my ego get in the way. But when you ask me to open my checkbook to buy your crap, no way. Wells Fargo, no way. Bank of America, no way. Now, having said that, detach the crappiness. I think of an SH word that would be better, but detach the crappiness of this industry and your feelings about it and the collective losers that populate it from your need as a housing investor, buyer, or seller, or a consumer of some sort in the industry. You need to embrace the industry the way I've just described as my embracing of Zillow. You don't have to buy into the crap and propaganda of the industry, but you're going to have to use the industry to benefit, which means you're going to have to find the people, albeit rare, in this industry, mortgage, title, attorney, real estate agent, etc., appraiser, whatever, that are the best. That's hard to do. I've been through 3 property managers in the last 4 years, outside property managers, to the point I have officially given up for good. I have just opened my own property management division, and I think I have a great person who is already on my team who's taking that over, and we're going to try to build it because nobody does it worth a crap. So I could say, I'm just going to manage all my own property. Brian's just going to sit here and take the calls, and I'd go nuts. I've got to have somebody help me with it. And I got to say, if you're a property manager out there, don't call me because I'm not going to outsource it again. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to in-house it and manage it. I'm going to be a CEO and a leader, and I'm going to help someone who wants to build a career, who has experience in property management, who works for and with me, do it. Because trying to go out and find somebody in this industry who knows how to manage a freaking property is nearly impossible. All right, so that's how you take a look at the industry and go, industry sucks, industry terrible, people greedy, incompetent. I'll do it myself, but not by doing it myself. I'm going to go find a good person and help them do it the way apparently nobody else can. So when you're looking for a real estate agent, you've got to act like you're hiring an employee. When you're looking for a mortgage person, hire an employee. When you're getting ready to sell your home, one of the things that people come up with is they go, do I need to get an appraisal? Now, I said a lot of stuff there. Let me talk about the appraisal industry within housing and the home inspection industry really fast. And I want those of you who are appraisers or home inspectors to listen to what I just said. Because here's what happens. You learn this after 20 years of radio. If I blanketly talk about a whole industry like I just did in real estate and say real estate people in general suck, I always get hate mail. That's unethical. I've been in this business with my blue hair old bitty crowd here for the last 43 years, and I've seen people like you come and go all the time, Crabtree. I sell my 3.2 homes a year and my poverty level salary every year, and I'm proud of it. Don't make fun of me. That's the typical person who can't stand, because they're so into their industry. They can't sell anything, and every client they work with can't stand them because some people don't like me. That's fine. Some clients don't like me, but they respect that I know what I'm doing. I'm going to get the job done. There's a difference. I don't want a nice lawyer. I want a mean one that gets the job done. It's the same thing in housing. So you get these people, they call up, they get all upset. Oh. So I want to be careful about this. There are good appraisers. There aren't many, and there are good home inspectors, but there aren't many. So I just want to say, just because you're a home inspector or appraiser, don't take this personally. I don't want to injure the little ego. Appraisers are worthless. Home inspectors are even more worthless. But we have to recommend the home inspector to cover our own you-know-what. Because if I do the home inspection as a real estate agent, I lose my license. If I recommend you don't have a home inspection, I lose my license. That's government regulation and the law going against the best thing for people. The problem is that when we hire an appraiser or a home inspector, we assume ignorantly we've hired a quote unquote professional who will keep a good watch on us. But it's like everything else, like going to the DMV. I'm sorry, you didn't check the right box on that form. You're going to have to go back and get in the back of that 2-hour line. That doesn't mean there's any quality in the process at the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, or the Revenue Department in Georgia. It just means that there's a bean counter sitting in a counter for a moment who has power over you or who has influence over you to put you at the end of the line. We allow ourselves to get in these situations by just assuming that the appraiser is competent or by assuming the home inspector is anything more than a failed builder who doesn't know how to put bricks on a house and build one. Because let's face it, with a few exceptions, who is a home inspector with a license to do home inspections that can qualify and properly account for housing who wouldn't be out building houses making 50 to 100 grand a piece? We'll pick this up next. Don't go away. We'll continue.
Here comes Bryan Crabtree for your radio talk.
Great to have you, the realestateexperts.com real estate show. I am the aforementioned Bryan Crabtree, and I invite you to our website, therealestateexperts.com. If you're buying, if you're selling, or missed a segment or series of shows you want to take a look, go to the blog channel for that. We do there what we do on the air every week, and it's there for infinitum. Not everything that's on the air is on the site, because we want you to listen to the radio station. But much of what we do on the air here is on that site, so you can go back and get the highlights. Great detail. So far this show, I've pissed off half the banks in America. I have probably upset someone in the bean counting world of Comcast. I've destroyed my industry and ticked off most realtors. And I had just gotten into doing the same plowing through appraisers and home inspectors before we took a short break. Here we are to continue the show. So let's pick up where we left off with continuing to tick off most everyone in the housing industry. The reason I do this is because it's interesting to me the responses I get, which to me are more educational than the stuff I'm putting on the air, about the things I'm saying here. And here's the contrast of my 20-year career in housing and media at the same time. I talk about housing in a way that I'm air quotes here, you can't see it, but imagine me holding my fingers up doing air quotes, aren't supposed to say these things, which happen to be what my audience tells me frequently is what they think of our industry anyway. So I took the position many years ago, over a decade ago, to turn my shows about housing and finance into a reality show of truth. Here's the truth behind the industry. Here's the thing most consumers sense but can't put to words. And because I've done that, the amount of hate mail I've gotten from within the industry I've lost count. I don't even know how to count how many hundreds or thousands of emails and notices and complaints to the radio station I've gotten from the realtors, right? Or whatever group. But honestly, I have not heard of many complaints by consumers. I could count on one hand the number of times a consumer who's bought and sold real estate or engaged in the housing industry has called a radio station or sent me an email complaining about the content, or context would be better, of what I'm talking about with regard to the industry. They may say, well, you talked about pulling it out of your rear end. I got that for a while on AM 920, The Answer. That was more about my language that was being specifically talked about and not about the content or context. I think that's a little beneath you, Bryan. You should probably not talk like that. That sounds very Trump-like. That's like tweeting, right? So I say this. People ask me all the time, what do you think about Trump's tweets? Oh, I think they're great. Well, don't you think he ought to tweet a little less? Wouldn't that be better? No. Why would he do that? What got him elected? It was his tweets. There could be a bomb going off in China, and Trump could tweet about Nancy Pelosi and what he thinks of the woman and say God knows what, which would make anybody cringe. And the media all of a sudden starts talking about the tweet. They still haven't figured it out. Why would someone with that kind of power to communicate stop doing what works? So why do I tweet about the industry or talk about the industry? Because I want people to know what's really happening. And what's the self-serving part of it? I'm not that way. That's all. That's the whole message, right? I'm just giving you the brass tacks and saying, I don't like it no more than you like it. I'll do differently. That's the self-serving part of it. I'm transparent even about the self-serving part of it. That's what I find funny about watching the political process of Trump shouldn't tweet like that. That's dumb. Sometimes his tweets get him in trouble, but look at what happened with the government shutdown. I'll own it. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, you own it. You own that shutdown. Right? But look what happened. He took a ratings blow. He took an approval ratings blow in all the polls, big time, during that 30-plus day government shutdown. And within 10 days of opening the government back up, he had the highest approval rating, according to the one poll that's been the most accurate, at 52% that he's had since he took the office. What does that tell you? No matter how harshly you get attacked for telling the truth or your honest view of an opinion, you will always come out ahead no matter what it feels like the moment that opinion comes out of your mouth or a tweet or whatever. That's why people like Trump, and in my own world, people like me, just tell you what we think. And you'll be better for knowing it, listening to this show or working with us if you go to buy or sell real estate. So let me go back to what we were talking about last segment, appraisers and home inspectors. Home inspectors frequently focus on things that are easy to see. Your roof has had some hail damage, but it's okay. Your hot water heater needs an expansion tank. It's not up to code. I know the house is 20 years old, but it's not up to today's code. All of these things. What was the one I dealt with? You have a structural problem because I see a crack in the brick. Maybe it's just a cosmetic problem. They don't say that, though, do they? So the average ignorant person, which is not the people listening to my show, reads these things in quantity on a home inspection by a home inspector, otherwise known as someone who likely can't make it as a builder. There's the hate mail coming in now. Ding, ding, ding. Truth hurts, doesn't it? That's my opinion, really. It's truthful, but it's my opinion. And what does the buyer do? They freak out. Why do they freak out? Because the real estate agent is stupid. They have no opinion. My office tells me to have no opinion on anything. Here's some more forms for you to sign. Here, I need these 19 disclosures signed so that if you decide to sue me for being stupid, you've signed all your rights away. But I represent you and your interests. Ain't that nice? That's our industry. It sucks. I like having an opinion. I can't be a lawyer. Here's my opinion. I can't be an accountant. Here's my opinion on how to find one. I don't have to give you the answer, but I can sure as hell tell you how to get it. Nobody does that anymore in the housing industry. I'm afraid you might sue me. You know what I say? Get in line. I mean, whatever. People, I've been sued. Things I've said. I'm being sued now for something I said on the radio. So what? They'll lose. They lose because they don't like the truth, and they sure don't like it when I tell you the truth combined with my opinion of what's happening. And sometimes I have to get specific, and a lot of times I keep it generic. So here's the thing about appraisals. Appraisers don't know how to talk about the market. They're not taught to tell you value. They have a value approach. That's not really anything wrong with the appraisers as much as it is the law behind appraising. Because most of what's in the law is antiquated and stupid anyway. That when we talk about regulatory law, it doesn't think about all the what ifs and gray areas. And so when appraisers come out to your house, they look at the last 6 to 12 months of value, and they come up with some arbitrary number and these ridiculous adjustments that make no sense. Sometimes they do, most of the time they don't. And they come up with a number. So I would tell you, as much as I made a big deal out of the Zillow Zestimate and the online automated valuations and how inaccurate they are, at the beginning of this show, that an appraiser's opinion of value is no more of value to you as a homeowner than is the Zestimate on Zillow, which I think is a ridiculous product. It's worthless. So what do? You hire someone who isn't an appraiser necessarily. It's okay if they are. I don't want to beat up every appraiser. I had one on a deal recently. It was phenomenal. Smartest one I've dealt with in a year. And if it was him you were dealing with, no problem. Right? So I keep those people on the back of my, on top of my list as people that competent appraiser. It's a short list, by the way, very short, less than one sheet. Incompetent appraiser list, mile long, right? So that's what I'm talking about. There are the very few good ones and many, many, many bad ones. So if people go, should I get an appraisal in order to put my home on the market? No, get a good real estate agent who knows how to predict value. What if you don't appraise? What if it doesn't? If one of these bad idiots comes along to appraise your house, we've been dealt a bad set of cards. Release the contract, put it back on the market, sell it again. But I need to sell it now. You should never be in the situation where that's the words coming out of your mouth. Because I had a seller this week, I said, I just want to make sure you realize that what I'm about to do has a 50-50 shot of working out handsomely for you and getting you everything you want in this deal. But I also want you to know it has the 50-50 shot of blowing the deal up and we got to put it back on the market. And I want to make sure before you tell me go, that this is okay with you. She said, that's fine. I know you want a commission right now, but I'm not giving up any more money. I said, I'm not asking you to give up any more money. I'm only calling you to make sure you know there's an A or B that results out of this. I said, I don't care if it closes or not. I mean, I care if you care, but I don't care. Why would I tick you off, my seller? Most agents will do this. Why would I tick you off, pushing you to do something you don't want to do, when I know that I can put it back on the market, sell it again? But if I tick you off, you're going to want to fire me if this deal doesn't go through. So why would I destroy my relationship with you to push you out of another couple $1,000s? I'm not calling you for that. I'm calling to make sure you know the two likely outcomes, one or the other, of which this strategy will create. We won. Got everything she wanted in that moment of negotiation. But here's the neat thing. She wasn't desperate. I don't need to sell it right now. I can wait. That's the best place to be and where you'll get the most money. Now, I don't mean I can wait 6 months. I mean, I am not willing to tie my best decisions to needing a deal right now. A lot of sellers put themselves in the position they need to sell it now, and they lose money doing that. So you don't need an appraiser, because I have had time and time again where a home has not appraised for what we sold it for, sold it again, and it appraised just fine for the exact same sales price. I've had it where I've sold it twice and it didn't appraise, appraised it again, and finally sold it for that sales price. I've had them where we've had to reduce the price, but always for more than the appraisal. Almost always, not always, but almost always. Don't worry about that. When it comes to the appraisers and the home inspectors, you don't get to control your appraisal. You just don't. It's the law. That's regulatory impact. But the CMA, you can choose the agent that gives you that, and make sure you've got an agent that knows how to trend the market. When it comes to home inspections, there's a few good ones out there. Not saying a home inspection is not valuable, but I would prefer someone who's looking for problems instead of checking boxes on a list. As I predicted, a big federal crackdown on this in housing. That's next.
Here comes Bryan Crabtree for your radio talk.
Welcome. TheRealEstateExperts.com is our website. The instant home valuation tab, which we talked about a lot of ways on this show earlier, is househuntingonline.com if you're thinking about selling this spring, this summer, this fall. Hey, but don't do what a lot of people do, and that is that they wait until the very minute they're ready to sell, and then boom, they go on the market and they want it done like right now, right? I talked about this last segment. That's what people do. Get kind of urgent, and they kind of wait till they're right up against the wall, and they got to make their move. They've got a contract on another house they're building. Their builder's about to be finished. They're about to get transferred, and they got to get on to their next job somewhere else. When you know you're going to sell a house, the most important thing you can do, this is a big number. If you do it the right way, and listing a house the right way takes a month to 6 weeks at minimum. Like, I've got a guy right now that I'm working with, a radio show listener, and we're going through some repairs, this and that, touch-up stuff, nothing major, cleaning out the house, doing an estate sale, so that we can bring in a professional stager and really make this house look great. It's in a great area of town. It's going to be a great price, going to be very attractive, best school districts, everything, right? And so he's not just coming to the market going, Bryan, I need to sell now, right? He's ready to go now. But he's taking the time methodically. He's an accountant by trade. I'm not telling people too much because it's a big market. Lots of accountants here. And those kinds of folks, that their background, their personality tend to be much more methodical. People like me tend to be the ones that just originally in my early adult life just rush in and go, I want it done now. And we learn over time, especially with the amount of business I've done, slow down, do it the right way. So when you're going to sell a house, when you are committed to selling and you know at some point in the next 12 months you're going to sell, that's the time to reach out. And you take a few shots on your phone, send me some pictures. I can usually give you most of the advice right there. I don't mind doing that. I love it when people do that kind of stuff. It's not a waste of my time for me to take a look at some photos for 5 minutes and send you a narrative on what I would do to that space. And by giving you, you're going to sell in July, right? So giving you the next 3 or 4 months to do that is going to help you make $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. I see it. I see it every time. Houses that list for $175,000. The perfect house down the street, if I'm listing it, $185,000. $345,000. Most houses in the area. Perfect house, primo, stage right, $360,000. I ain't spending $2,000 on stage. Well, staging, right? I get this. I stage every house I've ever sold in the last 5 to 10 years anyway. And the reason I do that is because I spend $2,000, I make 5 to 10. If I were to tell you that there's this great new stock and it's $2,000 to buy 100 shares of it right now, and next week we know for sure it's going to be $10,000, would you do it? It'd be insider trading, which would make it illegal. But I'm just saying, if it wasn't illegal and you knew the stock was about to release a cure for cancer, be illegal. But let's say it wasn't illegal, you would do it. So staging a home and preparing it properly is the same thing. I digress. TheRealEstateExperts.com for more on that. There is a big story. I talked about a situation with a development that I am in litigation with because of some what I would call material non-disclosure, and that's being polite. Fraud is a better word, where they just didn't tell us about things related to a conservation easement. And the backstory on this is a developer in a community down south of the city. And they have put a property in a conservation easement that's 1,200 acres that used to be owned by the development in some way, and part of the amenity offering and proposition when you buy in the community, this is what you get access to. It has a lake on it that's 100 acres and a bunch of riding trails and so on and so forth. And so just after the time we bought that piece of property and built a house on it, the developer converted this into a conservation easement. Now, this used to be a plan to build 150 or so lots on the lake, which would have given all of the residents access to the lake still, and access to the riding trails, but not the lots surrounding the lake. That's fine. Great Lake fishing is awesome, very, very serene. So they decided to put it conservation easement. And in doing so, they got some level of a massive tax break. Now, if they put it, they bought it for $2 million as a piece of raw land in 2015 or 16, I think it was. And so if they put it into conservation easement and said this thing's worth $2 million and they got they're at a 35% tax bracket, let's say. These folks are probably at a 39. I don't know, but I'm just going to guess. At a 39% tax bracket, $2 million is a $780,000 tax deduction. So think about that. You paid $2 million. You get a $789,000 tax deduction, and then they sold it out from under us. We now no longer, after a certain period of sunlight period or sunset period, we no longer have access to it potentially. And they sold it for $3 million to somebody, but with a conservation easement, which says in theory you can't develop it, you can't do anything with it, but use it for conservation land and keeping the trees and the wildlife and all that. So you bought it for $2 million, you sold it for $3 million, you screwed over everybody that bought into it and buying a piece of land on the other tract. You got a $790,000 tax break, and you got $3 million. You got $1 million profit. So you got back almost all of your money for that, right? And let me rephrase that. You got back all of your initial investment, and then you almost doubled your money. Let me say that the right way. You doubled your money in the course of 2 or 3 years, right? That's legal, what I just described. But let's say you brought out a couple of appraisers and you said, and again, this is just a scenario. I'm not saying this group did this because I'm in active litigation with them and I don't know what they actually did. But let's say that they did it. And I know that this happens. It happened dozens of times over the last couple of years across the country, and people got caught for doing this at much bigger levels. Let's say they put it at a $10 million value. Well, we could have had 150 lots out of this thing, 100,000 apiece. That'd be 15 million. So we probably don't want to go that far. They might flag an audit. Let's say it's worth $10 million. Let's run those numbers again. They paid $2 million. And again, this is just theoretical. I'm not saying this is what happened. They paid $2 million. They sold it for $3 million profit. Nothing wrong with that. I love real estate for that reason. There's nothing unreasonable about those numbers there. But let's say they did a $10 million appraisal for the tax deduction, but they're still at that 39% tax rebate. How much money is that in true tax savings? Not tax deduction, but savings. The deduction would be $10 million. The savings would be $3.9 million. $3.9 million. So they bought it for $2 million, sold it for $3 million, made $1 million, paid taxes on that, but then made $3.9 million in true tax abatement. That means not factoring the taxes on the $1 million profit. You add that to the $3.9 million. That's $4.9 million in profit on a $2 million piece of land over the course of 3 years, in theory. Now, whether this particular developer in Coweta County did that or not, I don't know for sure. We'll find that out over time. Perhaps the IRS will find it out, would be even better. But in reality, this happens all the time across the country, whether this group did it or not. And there's a line between where it's illegal and where it's tax fraud. There's all kinds of parameters. First of all, you can't make this land a profit center, and I think this developer that I'm dealing with did it as well, which further denies the spirit and intention of conservation land. Conservation land is someone who has a piece of land, and they want the land to never be developed, and the land has a certain value as it sits right now, and they would rather see it never developed and stay as a legacy piece or whatever for recreational and or conservation purposes, and they donate it out of goodwill. Usually this kind of person would be someone that may own 1,000 acres or be worth millions and millions of dollars, and they give away 100 acres for the sake of goodwill and charity. And that's a nice legacy to leave to preserve land and green space and oxygen and clean earth, right? That's a good thing. And that's why this was developed. But it's turned into a fraud center for big, rich, wealthy people who take advantage of every inch of the tax law they can and then screw the rest of us in the process. Yours truly being the one getting screwed as well as his wife. The Justice Department has taken on this abusive transaction and scheme in the Northern District of Georgia by a company called Ecovest Capital. Now, I know of Ecovest because it was recommended I look at this for tax abatement purposes, and thank God, because I'm being negatively affected by this thing in Coweta County. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that. Out of principle alone, if there's a tax deal for me there, I'll just pay the IRS. I ain't going down that path because I am not going to be a hypocrite. But so, because I think this ought to be illegal. I don't think you should be able to donate land and get a tax credit, period. I don't think it should be legal. It should be illegal. Now, I'm not saying that anybody who uses this appropriately, as I described the first possible scenario of the developer I'm dealing with, if they valued it at $2 million, good for them. It ought to be illegal, but it isn't. I have no problem with the fact they did it. Based upon the tax implications, I have a problem with what they did to us, but not the fact they took a deduction, right? So there's this $1 billion loophole that Ecovest was using where they would go and buy up these easements, and I'm going to oversimplify this thing, and they would then sell off the shares so someone could put in $20,000 into this thing and get a share that would be equivalent to a $100,000 tax benefit. So my tax bill this year was $150,000. In theory, I could go to Ecovest Capital and I could pay them some number. And again, don't hold me to the numbers. This is anecdotal for representation. Pay them $20,000 and get a $100,000 deduction. So, or credit. So if my tax bill was $150, I bought it for $20. That's 20 out. I get $100. That means I'm paying the IRS $70 of a $150,000 bill, less than half of the taxes I owe. You see why I think this should be illegal? If you owe the taxes, pay the taxes, right? These kind of loopholes are what cause the rest of us, especially the middle class, who's my clientele who buys and sells houses all the time, to have less money to buy and sell houses. So in a way, I think this harms real estate more than it helps. It makes the rich get richer and the rest of us to hell with us. I'm glad that this is being prosecuted. I'm glad that this is happening in Georgia because I'm in the middle of litigation right now over this very same scam. It's not a criminal activity necessarily. I'm not calling Ecovest criminal. I don't know the numbers. But what I know is that this is being cracked down on. And you know what I say? Sometimes with the federal government, I'm really negative. On this one, I say, great. TheRealEstateExperts.com. If you're buying or selling, reach out to me. We'll give you the best service we can for Metro Atlanta. Have a great weekend.